Hello, fifth graders, and welcome to your math lesson. For today, you will need your math resource binder, your 5A textbook, your 5A workbook, and paper and a pencil. If you need to pause and go get any of those things, please do so, and then come on back. Fifth graders, for our warm-up problems, I'm going to start already kind of reviewing us for our next DDI. So each of these problems are going to be very much like problems that you would see on an upcoming DDI. This isn't happening until January, so it's a very long way off. But you're going to see that the warm-up problems may not necessarily be directly linked to what we just learned about. It's going to be continuing to review things that we've learned about and that you'll be asked on a future test for the DDI, okay? So you're going to pause, solve both of these problems, come on back and see how you did. So fifth graders, when I think about this division problem, I see that I have a 74 in each place, and the difference is 3 zeros. And I would remember that when I'm removing zeros through division, that's how many zeros I want to be dividing by. So we want to have divided by 1,000 because it has 1, 2, 3 zeros, and we got rid of 1, 2, 3 zeros. Okay, and then remember for multiplication, we really only need to focus on these parts, and then we can add our zeros at the end. So the most efficient way would be multiplying 46 times 8. 6 times 8 is 48. 4 times 8 is 32, plus 4 is 36. So we get 368, but we need to add back 3 zeros. So you should have ended up with 368,000. So again, these are problems that you might see on a much later to come DDI, but it's good practice until then to keep working on these problems. Our objective for today is going to continue to build off of some of the skills that we worked on Monday and Tuesday. We're going to be finding the fraction of a set, okay? The steps are going to be very similar. The biggest difference, though, that we need to remember for today's lesson is when we're talking mathematically, this word of, you should remember from Mrs. Ruday, this word of equals multiplication. This is our big rule for today's math, is that of equals multiplication, okay? That's always going to be true mathematically, right? If we talk about of something, we're going to be multiplying, okay? So fifth graders, we're going to get right into doing some practice problems. This work that we're doing today is actually going to be setting us up for some word problems that are going to be in your future. So let's go ahead and open our workbooks to page 67. Page 67. And then come on and join me. I'm going to flip you around. And we're going to get right into some practice. Okay, so we look at the top of page 67, which tells us that Li Hua bought 12 eggs. She used 2/3 of them to bake a cake. How many eggs did she use? So looking at the start, right, we see a nice picture that kind of shows us what we're dealing with, right? There's 12 eggs. It's been broken evenly into thirds so that each amount has 4 eggs in it. So 2 of those thirds then, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So using kind of like a version of model drawing, we could find what 2/3 of 12 is, okay? Now there's this other version of model drawing, right? And this will be something we very much would do on word problems coming up in your near future, okay? So we draw a unit bar. We look at 12 total. We break it into 3 equal pieces, okay? And then we're being asked what 2/3 is. So we would put our question mark around 2 of those chunks of the unit bar, okay? So 3 units equals 12, which means that 1 unit, we're going to do 12 divided by 3 and get 4. And then 2 of those units, then we'd say 2 times 4 is 8. So 2/3 of 12 is 8. Okay, so these are 2 ways that you could find the answer to this question. But now we're going to talk about the third method that I'll demonstrate here. We're being asked what 2/3 of 12 is. Okay, this is the first question. 2/3 of 12. So remember what I wrote on the whiteboard behind me, which is that of mathematically is equal to multiplication. So if we're trying to find what 2/3 of something is, we multiply. This, fifth graders, should look so familiar. You should say, this is exactly what we've been doing the last couple of days. So we rewrite our whole number as a fraction over 1. And now we look, can we simplify? Again, in advance, simplify. So we check our diagonal pairs. They need to have a fraction that is, or a factor other than 1. So 2 and 1 do not share a factor other than 1. 3 and 12, however, are both divisible by 3, so we can simplify. 3 divided by 3 is 1. 12 divided by 3 is 4. Now we're doing numerator times numerator, denominator times denominator. 2 times 4 is 8. 1 times 1 is 1. So our answer is 8. Fifth graders, I keep doing this step where I'm showing you the denominator because I want to make it really, really clear to you. However, you might be getting to the point where you're seeing there's ones in the denominator, so you could just skip this step here and go straight to 8. That's fine, okay? So you can see that what we're doing today is really just building off of yesterday's work, okay? So as we go through the textbook for today, you're going to see this pictorial representation of the work here, okay? We have 5 and we're dividing it into fourths, okay? So we can go with wholes, right? 1, 2, 3, 4 groups. So each of these is going to go into a group. And then we have this extra one, which we have to divide into fourths. And then those are going to get divvied up between each group. So looking at this picture here, we should see that it's going to be 1 and 1/4. But mathematically speaking, we can work that out, okay? By saying, what is 1/4? We're looking at number 1. 1/4 of 5, which remember is the same as multiplying 1/4 times 5, which we know by now is 5 over 1. Okay? Now we do numerator times numerator, 1 times 5. Denominator times denominator, 4 times 1. I did this without saying it out loud, fifth graders, but I looked at my diagonal pairs and I saw they don't have a factor that is other than 1, so we cannot simplify in advance, okay? So now we have an improper fraction, which remember, if we can make it proper, we should. Okay, so you could do that by division, or maybe you say in your head, I can get out 1/4 with 1 left over. 1 and 1/4, which is exactly what the picture work told us would happen, right? We saw that worked out for us. Okay, let's take a look at number 2. So again, we have this picture. We're trying to find what 3/4 of 5 is. Okay, 3/4 of 5. So we know what 1/4 is. 1/4 of 5 we just figured out was 1 1/4. So now we want to have 3 of them, right? So 1, 2, 3, and 3/4. Okay, this is what we would do picture-wise. But remember, we can do the math, and that is in many ways going to be more efficient. Okay, so we say 3/4 of 5, which is the same thing as 3/4 times 5. We check at our diagonal pairs, which they do not share a factor. So now we multiply across. 3 times 5 is 15. 4 times 1 is 4. Now we check. Can we simplify? Can we make proper? And the answer is yes, we definitely can make proper. So again, you could probably do this in your head, but if not, you can also do the division. 3 times 4 is 12 with a remainder of 3. And remember, we express this remainder here, becomes our numerator. Our divisor becomes our denominator. So we get 3 and 3/4, which sure enough is what the picture told us it would be, right? We looked at the picture and the math are matching one another. Okay. So I'm not going to necessarily look at the picture with you anymore, but you can see how physically that works. Okay. The picture is showing us the same thing as what we're seeing in our math. Okay. So number 3 is asking you to find 3/4 of 9. Fifth graders, at this point, I would like you to pause. I would like you to find this answer yourself. Come on back and see how you did. So remember, we're doing 3/4 times 9, which is the same as 3/4 times 9/1. Now, if you were feeling trickable this morning, maybe you saw some factors that are not in diagonal pairs, right? 3 and 9 share a factor, but they are not a diagonal pair. We can only look at our diagonal pairs. So 3 and 1 and 9 and 4, they do not share any factors other than 1, okay? So we cannot simplify in advance, which means we just multiply across. 3 times 9 is 27. 4 times 1 is 4. Now we always check. Can we make it proper? Yes, we can. Okay, we can get 4 out of 27 6 times with a remainder of 3. So our answer should have been 6 and 3/4. How'd we do? Hopefully it went okay. Okay, I'm going to have you try 4 on your own. 4A and 4B are really asking you kind of to do the same thing. It's just showing that you can multiply in any order. So we're going to do it as 1. 2/3 of 5. So go ahead, pause, and then come on back and see how you did. So 2/3 times 5, which again is 5/1. Looking at our diagonal pairs, we cannot simplify in advance. Okay. So what that means is that we're going to go ahead and multiply across. 2 times 10 is 2 times 5, is 10. 3 times 1 is 3. So we end up with 10/3, which we can make proper. And when we do so, we get 3 and 1/3. So remember, I keep talking about checkpoints, fifth graders. This is a great checkpoint for you. Okay. Okay, we're going to go ahead and look at page 70 in your textbook. Okay, page 70 in your textbook. This is the next page. We're going to go through some problems now that are going to allow us to simplify. Okay, so starting with 6A. This is going to loop back some of the work without of and some of the work with of. Okay, so 2/5 times 10, 5/6 times 8, 3/4 times 18. So fifth graders, you can go ahead and work on all 3 of those. Pause and work on all 3. And then come on back and see how you did. So 2/5 times 10/1. Now we look at our diagonal pairs, and we can simplify in advance. 5 divided by 5 is 1. 10 divided by 5 is 2. Okay, now we multiply across. And so this is one, fifth graders, where maybe you're getting familiar with this and you're saying, I see my denominator as 1 times 1, which means that you're not going to have a fraction in you don't have to have a fraction in your answer, right? Instead, we can just focus on our numerators. 2 times 2 is 4. And maybe you wrote 4/1 and then said that equals 4. That's great. Okay, we continue. 5/6 times 8/1. 5 and 1 can't be simplified, but 6 and 8 can. They're both divisible by 2. 6 divided by 2 is 3. 8 divided by 2 is 4. Now we multiply across. 5 times 4 is 20. 3 times 1 is 3. This is improper. We need to make it proper. which if you did so, you should have gotten 6 and 2/3. Okay? 3 times 18 over 1. Again, we can simplify. These are both divisible by 2. 4 divided by 2 is 2. 18 divided by 2 is 9. Now we multiply. 3 times 9 is 27. 2 times 1 is 2, which we have to make proper. When we do so, we should end up with 13 and a half. Okay. Where are we at? Let's see. Okay, let's go on to 7. Let's say 7A, 7B, 7C. So we have 1/4 of 80, 1/5 of 50, 2/3 of 90. So again, I'm going to have you pause. I'm going to have you try these problems. Come on back and see how you did. So we're multiplying 1/4 times 80, which is the same as 1/4 times 80 over 1. 1 and 1 cannot be simplified, but 4 and 80 can be. They share a factor of 4. 4 divided by 4 is 1. 80 divided by 4 is 20. Okay. We multiply across and get 20 over 1, or 20. 1/5 times 50. We can simplify. These are both divisible by 5. We multiply across and get 10. You might have noticed here, 5th graders, that multiplying by a fraction is the same as dividing by the denominator. So 1/4 of 80 is the same as 80 divided by 4. 1/5 of 50 is the same as 50 divided by 5. Either method. That's not going to work as well when our numerator is not 1. Okay, that gets trickier when our numerator is not 1. So instead we'd say 2/3 times 90 over 1. Again, these share a factor of 3. 3 divided by 3 is 1. 90 divided by 3 is 30. 2 times 30 is 60. 60 over 1, or 60. Okay, so 5th graders, we're going to stop there. Your practice work today is actually going to be continuing to work on those problems in the textbook that you did not work on. I'm going to probably put them still into a document for you so you're kind of seeing some consistency. So you're going to finish those problems on page 70 from 6 and 7. Again, I'm typing it up in a document. And then your homework will be in your workbook, pages 64 through 65. So you're going to complete those problems. You're going to take a picture and then upload, or take pictures and upload pictures of your work. So remember kind of where we're at. You've had now 2 places actually in here where I've had you pause and check your own work. So that's kind of a checkpoint 1 and 2, or checkpoint 1. You're going to do this practice work. Again, remember, that's your checkpoint 2. If at any point you're completing this work and you're thinking to yourself, I'm not understanding this, or I'm kind of finding that I'm getting the answers wrong a lot, even though I can understand my corrections, anything along those lines, right? Come to office hours, ask for help. Even if you can't make it to my office hours, you can send me a message during the day, say, I need help, and then we can schedule a time. Even if it's outside of my office hours, we can still try to schedule a time either later today or tomorrow to work on this, okay? So use these checkpoints to help you figure out where you're at with your work, all right? Ask questions if you need help, and good luck.